The following program is intended for listeners who are blind, have low vision, or another print disability that makes reading, holding a book, or turning a page difficult or impossible. The content is copyrighted by the respective publishers. For more information, please visit us on the web at nfradioreading.org. Your Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service now presents a reading of articles and features from the Buffalo News for today, Friday, January 30th, 2026. Your readers today are
J.J. Batek
and Don Williams. Turning first to the weather. Some of us are getting tired of this already.
Weather outside is frightful.
Well, a little snow in the morning today and a high of 7 with a low of 2. My car said it was 1 already on the way here. Saturday, tomorrow, that is, cloudy and bitterly cold with a high of 11 and a low of 5. Low clouds and very cold on Sunday. I guess very cold is warmer than bitterly cold because it's a high of 15 tomorrow, or Sunday rather, and a low of 4. Monday, there's actually going to be some sunshine, according to the forecast. Cold with clouds and sun with a high of 21 and a low all the way up in the teens at 14. Same for Tuesday. Low clouds, a high of 24 and a low of 14. Wednesday, cold with low clouds. Wow. High of 19 and a low of 10. And Thursday, more low clouds. High of 26 and a low of 20.
It'll feel like a heat wave.
Yeah, something like that. A low of 20. My goodness. What are we going to do? Still not warm enough to melt anything much.
Really?
Well, we'll see. The sun rose today at 7:32 and will set tonight at 5:26, giving us not quite 10 hours, 9 hours and 54 minutes of possible sunshine today. And right now it's pretty blue sky out there. The last 24 hours or so, a high of 13 and a low of 10. Well, that was yesterday. It's gotten colder since then. The record high was 59 degrees in 1914. And the record low, -7 in 1977. Normally 31 and 18 are the extremes. Last year was 38 degrees today. Well, just a tad of precipitation, 0.13 of an inch in the last 24 hours. Month to date.
Gee, I brushed more than that off my car.
Indeed. Same here. Month to date, 3.18 inches. Now, in the snow derby, we've got 67 inches so far for the season. Syracuse is way ahead of us with more than 111 inches. Yeah, well, Lake Erie is now 95% ice covered, according to the news I heard last night on Channel 4.
Well, there's thin ice all the way across, but yeah, it's...
Yeah, Lake Ontario is under 20. They'll keep getting snow in Syracuse.
Yep.
For the rest of the season. Jamestown has quite a bit of snow this year.
Mm-hmm.
Well, national extremes, don't you wish you were there? Fullerton, California, with a high of 80. And Grayling, Michigan, with a low of 25 below zero.
Oof.
Yeah. So there's your weather. We'll actually have to wait and see what happens.
Well, the lakes, Erie is always, because it's the shallowest, always freezes first.
Exactly.
And Ontario and Superior rarely freeze over.
They never freeze over. Too deep.
Yeah. For the national news, we have financial realities. This is Buffalo News, actually.
Yeah, front page.
Financial realities, the front page, prompt job cuts and furloughs at ECMC. This is from John Harris. The Erie County Medical Center Corporation on Thursday notified about 150 employees that they were losing their jobs, the result of a challenging financial situation that may only further deteriorate once federal Medicaid cuts arrive. The Safety Net Medical Center said the cuts, which affect about 3% of its workforce, are occurring in mostly non-clinical areas. In addition, non-union management employees will take a 1-week unpaid furlough this year. Despite this very difficult decision, ECMC has not closed programs but has made targeted reductions in service to meet patient demands and our financial realities. The medical center said in a statement, ECMC will continue to provide the high-quality national best-in-class care our community expects and deserves. The New York State Nurses Association, which represents 1,500 nurses at ECMC Corporation, said it was deeply concerned about the layoffs announced Thursday at ECMC, which affects some frontline nurses. The union said cuts to frontline staff, especially in the midst of federal attacks on health care, only diminish care for patients who depend on ECMC. The region's Level 1 Adult Trauma Center, which is the highest level of trauma care. Nurses are disappointed in Erie County Medical Center's decision to lay off workers, including several senior nurses with decades of experience at the bedside and nurse educators who provide trainings to staff across the hospital, said Crystal Kinnicki, the registered nurse and NYSNA member at ECMC. The people of Buffalo and the surrounding communities rely heavily on ECMC for access to safe, quality patient care. If hospital executives need to cut costs, they should cut executive salaries and administrative expenses, not the essential frontline caregivers who care for patients and keep the hospital running. Nurses will push back on any threat to patient care, including the layoffs of frontline health care workers. ECMC, which employed more than 4,100 people at the end of 2025, pointed to inadequate reimbursements from public and private payers, as well as inflationary costs as reasons for the workforce reduction. Like many other safety net hospitals across New York State and the U.S. that are facing rising costs without the commensurate reimbursements to cover costs of patient care, ECMC's circumstance is not unique, ECMC said. In addition, insurance companies continue to deny and delay payment for patient care services at an alarming rate. While the upcoming reduction in federal Medicaid spending is a concern on the horizon, much of what ECMC pointed to Thursday are challenges that have been brewing since the COVID-19 pandemic. In a recent interview with the Buffalo News, ECMC CEO Tom Katrosh said, the medical center has made progress with the local health plans on its contracts, but has struggled to get proper reimbursement from the national insurers. In addition, the Buffalo Hospital has struggled to discharge some patients who need to be transferred somewhere else. Specifically, alternative health care, or ALC, is a term that applies to patients who occupy a hospital bed but no longer need to be there. On January 21st, the day Quattrone spoke to the news, ECMC had 60 ALC patients, not far off the peak COVID figure of around 70 patients. Before the pandemic, ECMC would have about 12 to 15 patients on the ALC list at any given time. But since the pandemic, nursing homes have struggled to staff their full capacity of beds, meaning long-term care facilities have been unable to take as many patients from hospitals. Just as these patients getting stuck in the hospital, just from these patients getting stuck from the hospital, Katrosh estimated is costing ECMC at least $25 million a year. And that's a big deal, considering ECMC is budgeting for a $35 million loss in 2026. That's a lot of beds that could have been used for new patients coming in from the emergency department or other services, he said. And so that's lost revenue plus the cost of taking care of those individuals. In addition to the job cuts that were announced Thursday, ECMC also is continuing a hiring freeze for non-clinical positions that has started in late 2025. We're trying to do more with less to try to keep up with this escalation in inflation and this kind of flattening of revenues for us, Katrosh said. There have been a wave of hospital layoffs across the country over the past year. For example, New York City-based New York Presbyterian announced plans last year to lay off 1,000 employees, or 2% of its payroll. Elsewhere, on the same day as the ECMC news, Mercy One Des Moines Medical Center in Iowa announced it would cut 67 jobs in March. More challenges could be ahead. The One Big Beautiful Bill Act is projected to reduce federal Medicaid spending by about $1 trillion nationwide by 2034. New York State officials have estimated about 1.5 million New Yorkers could lose their health insurance coverage, which could cause uncompensated care costs to hospital providers to rise more than $3 billion annually statewide. That forecast has caused many health systems to conduct belt-tightening measures. Up until the announcement from ECMC, most of these local cuts have come out of Kaleida Health, which decided to accelerate a $200 million system-wide improvement plan in response to the federal bill. That led Kaleida to announce closures for its Millard Fillmore Surgery Center in Amherst, 2 Buffalo Therapy Service clinics, its Ear, Nose, and Throat Center at Buffalo General Medical Center, and its Family Planning Center at 1100 Main Street in Buffalo. Catholic Health has not yet announced major cuts or service changes, though its leaders also have their eyes on the federal shifts ahead in 2027. We've identified some areas that we're going to have to make some serious decisions about that aren't ready for prime time right now, but is figuring out what are we going to look like in 2027, Catholic Health President and CEO Joyce Markievicz said.
Well, more in financial news. Robert Gavin, the Albany bureau chief, reports that Buffalo Public School Superintendent Pascal Mubenga asked a joint legislative panel yesterday to increase the district's funding by $19 million and to place a moratorium on new charter schools. Citing a dramatic escalation in nursing contract costs, Mubenga said his number one request was for a $6 million increase to the district's health services grant, which he said has remained stagnant at $5.3 million for at least a decade. He said the district has been using general funds to pay for the expense. That would help us tremendously, Mubenga told the Joint Committee holding a hearing on elementary and secondary education in Governor Kathy Hochul's $260 billion executive budget proposal. Since COVID, the cost of hiring those nurses has really pretty much doubled. The estimated aid to Buffalo schools in Hochul's proposed budget was listed as $793,480,935, an increase from the previous year's figure of just short of $757 million. Mubenga, who came to Buffalo last year from the Durham, North Carolina public schools, asked for a $10 million fund to establish a Smart School Bond Act to help pay for the refurbishment of devices, 10 to 20% of which he said need to be refurbished annually. We really need that fund so that we can make sure our students are really competitive and they have the devices to continue their quality education, Mubenga testified. He said Buffalo is really struggling in the areas of special education, which represents 18% of the district's students. While the number of special needs students went down, the needs of the students essentially doubled, he said. He asked for $3 million to pay for social workers, guidance counselors, and school psychologists. The money, he said, was to offset losses from the absence of pandemic and emergency fund-related dollars. We still have those mental health needs that we really need to sustain, the superintendent testified. At the outset of his testimony, Mubenga lauded Hochul's proposal to expand child care through pre-kindergarten programs across the state. Mubenga, who testified on a panel alongside the superintendents of the city school districts of Rochester, Syracuse, Yonkers, Albany, Utica, and Mount Vernon, echoed many witnesses in expressing concerns about the proliferation of charter schools. Mubenga asked for a moratorium on the schools, which he said encompass around 28% of Buffalo students. Jennifer Pyle, executive director of the Conference of Big Five School Districts, which includes Buffalo, testified, "We have voiced long-standing support for school choice and affording parents the option to send their children to charter schools. However, we remain deeply concerned about the current charter school funding system. Charter school expansion in saturated school districts must be limited, and the New York State Board of Regents designated as the sole authorizing authority." Assembly member Michael DiBenedetto, a Democrat from the Bronx, who chairs the Assembly Education Committee, and Senator Shelley Mayer, a Westchester County Democrat who chairs the State Education Committee, were on the panel listening and considering Mubenga's testimony. Mayor asked Mubenga if previous plans to close some schools in Buffalo are still on the table. "That's still on the table," Mubenga responded.
A man is charged with trying to free Mangione from jail. This is from Michael Cisak of Associated Press. A man claiming to be an FBI agent showed up at a federal jail in New York City on Wednesday night and told officers he had a court order to release Luigi Mangione, authorities said. Mark Anderson, 36, of Mankato, Minnesota, was arrested and charged with impersonating an FBI agent in a foiled bid to free Mangione from the Metropolitan Detention Center, the notorious Brooklyn lockup where he is held after awaiting state and federal murder trials in the killing of United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson. A criminal complaint filed against Anderson did not identify the person he attempted to free. A law enforcement official familiar with the matter confirmed it was Mangione. The official was not authorized to speak publicly and did so on condition of anonymity. A message seeking comment was left with a spokesperson for Mangione's legal team. According to the criminal complaint, Anderson approached the jail intake area around 6:50 p.m. and told uniformed jail officers that he was an FBI agent in possession of paperwork signed by a judge, quote unquote, authorizing the release of a specific person in custody at the jail. When the officer asked for his federal credentials, Anderson showed the officers a Minnesota driver's license, threw numerous documents at them, and claimed to have weapons, the criminal complaint said. Officers searched Anderson's bag and found a barbecue fork and a circular steel blade, which was said to resemble a small pizza cutter wheel, the complaint said. Anderson had traveled to New York from Mankato, about 67 miles southwest of Minneapolis, and was working at a pizzeria after another job opportunity fell through, the law enforcement official said. The attempt to free Mangione happened during a critical stretch in his legal cases. Hours before Anderson's arrest, the Manhattan District Attorney's Office sent a letter urging the judge in Mangione's state case, Gregory Caro, to set a July 1st trial date. Mangione will be in court today for a conference in his federal case. The judge in that case, Margaret Garnett, is expected to rule soon whether prosecutors can seek the death penalty and whether they can use certain evidence against him. Last week, Garnett scheduled jury selection in the federal case for September 8th, with the rest of the trial happening in October or January, depending on whether she allows prosecutors to seek the death penalty. Mangione has pleaded not guilty in both cases. The state charges carry the possibility of life in prison. Thompson, 50, was killed on December 4th of 2024 as he walked to a Midtown Manhattan hotel for United Health Group's annual investor conference. Surveillance video showed a masked gunman shooting him from behind. Police said delay, deny, and depose were written on the ammunition, mimicking a phrase used to describe how insurers avoid paying claims. Mangione, a 27-year-old Ivy League graduate from a wealthy Maryland family, was arrested 5 days later at a McDonald's in Altoona, Pennsylvania, about 230 miles west of Manhattan. After several days of court proceedings in Pennsylvania, Mangione was whisked to New York and sent to the Metropolitan Detention Center.
You're listening to a reading of today's Buffalo News on your Niagara Frontier Radio reading service. It's going to be 18 minutes past the hour. We're going to turn to the editorial page. And local editorial titled Wins for Diversity. An important University at Buffalo program that boosts teacher diversity in public schools is back. Although the U.S. Department of Education stopped funding the UB Graduate School of Education's much-praised urban teacher residency program last year, New York State recognizes the value of this initiative and is supporting a similar program, the Accelerated Course to Teaching. As reported by the News, Ben Tsujimoto, ACT will bring 40 student teachers into Buffalo and Lackawanna public schools. These young educators will have the benefit of experienced mentors, tuition support, and stipends in an accelerated program that will get them certified in 16 months. Removing financial barriers helps bring a more diverse pool of would-be teachers into a system where they are badly needed. In the first 4 years of UB's previous program, its residents accounted for 33% of Buffalo Schools' Hispanic hires, 27% of its black hires, 20% of its racial hires, and 33% of its multiracial hires. Once again, as it must do with health care, food access, pollution mitigation, and so much more, New York is stepping in to provide damage control. The Trump administration has slashed education programs that promote diversity, education, and inclusion initiatives. This is a bad thing now. New York's Office of Strategic Workforce Development and the State University of New York disagree, and so does Buffalo Public Schools Superintendent Pascal Mubenga, who, during a presentation last week, reminded us that an 80% white teaching force is not a good match for an 84% minority student population. Canisius University and Buffalo State University are also offering similar incentivized pathways to teaching. Diverse, well-trained, and committed teachers are badly needed throughout Western New York. These programs help answer that call.
The Underground was missed. Another welcome return. The Underground nightclub at 274 Delaware Avenue, long known as a safe place for Buffalo's LGBTQ plus community, is reopening after being closed in October. As reported by the News' Samantha Chrisman, the bar had a new owner, Marty Crawford, who plans to reinvigorate the space with a new decor, arcade games, and a slightly broader range of refreshment options. Crawford plans to update the club's formerly understated visual presence. We've got the bottom half of the wall and the columns out front, and the front walls are all painted in the 6 primary colors of the pride flag. So there's no doubt when you walk into the front door that you've walked into a gay bar. It's even more important than ever that spaces like the Underground proudly welcome people who have suffered for decades from negative attitudes, discrimination, and even violence. Many remember that the Underground was briefly closed in 2018 by the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. The bar is located in the basement of a HUD-funded apartment building. That closure was rightly fought and the bar reopened. As diversity and inclusion are threatened on the federal front, it's heartening that this unique spot, active for more than 40 years under various names, is again welcoming patrons. Mm-hmm. And the legacy firm enters a new era. Surianello General Concrete Contractor has always been family-owned, but now it is also woman-owned by Clarissa Surianello, who is taking over from her father, Frank. As reported by the News' Jonathan D. Epstein, the unionized company, which was founded in 1957, has provided concrete infrastructure for such clients as the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, the U.S. Department of Transportation, the State Department of Transportation, Federal Aviation Administration, and the State Thruway Authority. Surianello plans to continue this respected history of quality workmanship as she provides inspiration for women trying to succeed in traditionally male-dominated fields.
Well, I wish them luck. Turning to the editorial cartoons, Adam Ziglis today has one showing the recently taken office mayor of Buffalo, Sean Ryan, with a bag labeled Buffalo De-Ice, Executive Orders Prevents Slipping into Fascism. So he's holding actually looks like the Statue of Liberty torch, and dispensing the de-ice compound onto the sidewalk. It says, "For the safety of our residents." A clever little bit labeled de-ice. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you see little faces on those little pointy-headed stalagmites.
What are those?
Stalactites and stalagmites.
And the stalactites are on the top, and stalagmites are on the bottom. Yep.
And they have little faces on them.
Little eyeballs looking out at us. And on the opposite page, Tom Stiglich of the Creators Syndicate, a familiar face, familiar name, with a jar labeled Superior Soft Foam Earplugs. And it is captioned, "How to Effectively Engage with Far-Left Extremists." Hold that phrase in your mind, folks. We've got coming up in the next editorial, which will begin right now.
Another voice is about power, as in...
No.
Which one? Oh, I'm sorry. I'm in the wrong place. Why a fake arrest photo from the White House really matters.
There you go.
This is from Anita Shabria. How do you know what you know? Did you learn it in school? Read it in the newspaper? Did you get your information on social media or through chatter with friends? Even in an age of misinformation and disinformation, which we really need to start clearly called propaganda, we continue to rely on old ways of knowing. We take it for granted that if we really need to get to the truth, there's a way to do it, even if it means cracking the pages of one of those ancient conveyors of wisdom, a book. We are entering an era in America when knowledge is about to be hard to come by. It would be easy to shrug off this escalation of the war on truth as just more Trump nonsense, but it is more than that. Authoritarians take power in the short term by fear and maybe force. In the long term, they rely on ignorance, an erasure of knowledge to leave people believing that there was ever anything different than what it is. And this is how our kids, future generations, come to be controlled. They simply don't know what was. Therefore, they're at a great disadvantage of imagining what could be. This week, the White House altered a photo of Nekima Levy Armstrong, a civil rights lawyer arrested in Minneapolis for protesting inside a church.
The original photo shows Armstrong in handcuffs being led away by a federal officer with his face blurred out. Armstrong is composed and steady in this image. A veteran of social justice movements and a trained attorney, she appears as one might expect, her expression troubled but calm. In the photo released by the White House, Armstrong is sobbing, her mouth hanging open in despair. In what is clearly nothing more than overt racism, it appears her skin has been darkened. Her braided hair, neatly styled in the original picture, is disheveled in the Trump image. A strong, composed resistor is turned into a weeping, weak failure. Yet again, to the people who feel the need to reflexively defend perpetrators of heinous crimes in our country, I share with you this message. Enforcement of the law will continue. The memes will continue. Thank you for your attention to this matter. That was the official White House response to inquiries about the photo posted on social media. The same week, the Trump administration began ripping down exhibits at the president's house in Philadelphia that told the story of the 9 black people held in bondage there by George Washington. I've been to that exhibit and had planned to take my kids this summer to learn about Joe Richardson, Christopher Shields, Austin, Hercules, Giles, Mole, Oni Judge, Paris, and Richmond. They are names that barely made it into American history. Many have never heard of them. Now, this administration is attempting to erase them. How do you know what you know? I learned most of what I know about these folks from that signage, which is probably in a dump somewhere by now. The information we once took for granted on government websites such as the Center for Disease Control and Prevention is gone. Climate change information, LGBTQ plus information, even agricultural information, gone, though some courts have ordered some restored. The National Law Enforcement Accountability Database, which has tracked federal police misconduct, has been shut down. The Smithsonian is undergoing an ideological review. And now our government is telling us it will alter in real time images of dissenters to create its own narrative. Demand that we believe not our own eyes, our own knowledge, but the narrative they create. I'll end with this. We're being told one story which is totally different than what's occurring, said Cumberland County, Maine Sheriff Kevin Joyce. He was speaking specifically about an incident in his town in which a corrections officer recruit was detained by ICE this week. In a video taken by a bystander, about 5 agents pull the man from his car as he drives home from work. They then leave his car running in the street as they take him away.
Joyce told reporters the man had a clean background check before being hired, had no criminal record, and was working legally in the country. The sheriff has no idea where the man is being held, and then Joyce's sentiment that what we are being told isn't what's happening applies to nearly everything we are seeing with our own eyes. A woman shot through her temple through the side window of her car. You don't understand what you're seeing. It was justified, our vice president has told us, even without the need for an investigation. Goodbye, Renee Good. They are attempting in real time to erase her reality and instead morph her into a domestic terrorist committing heinous crimes and maybe even worse. You have a small band of that very far left people who are trying to do everything they can to try to make ICE out to be the ultimate enemy and engage in this weird small-scale civil war. Vice President Vance said, protesting turned into a civil war. Next up, artificial intelligence is getting into the erasure game. Scientists are warning that those who wish to destroy truth will soon unleash AI-run operations in which thousands, if not millions, of social media posts will offer whatever alternative reality those in control of it wish. Under the pressure of that avalanche of lies, many will believe. The message the White House is sending with Armstrong's photo is that they control the truth. They decide what it is. Our job is to fight for truth, know it when we see it, and demand that it not be erased. And that's from Anita Shabria.
Well, you heard that line I told you to wait for, how to effectively engage with far-left extremists. Well, Vice President Vance told us how to do that. Just erase it. It's a difficult time we live in.
Yes.
In a number of ways.
Unfortunately, it resembles too many things that happened in the past that didn't work out.
We are listening to a reading of today's Buffalo News on your Niagara Frontier Radio reading service at 30 minutes past the hour. We're turning to a different page. The local viewpoints of our friends. This one is from Rabbi Alex Lazarus Klein. I was 4 years old when Star Wars came out. Leia, Luke, and Han were so much a part of my childhood, they were practically family members. I remember watching The Empire Strikes Back in London when my family was on vacation. Return of the Jedi came out when I was in 5th grade. My mom was brave enough to take a group of 20 of my friends to see it on my birthday. I would play for hours with the action figures, dreaming of the day I would get my very own model Millennium Falcon. E.T. had come out a year before Jedi, and I remember watching it 3 or 4 times in the theater. It ran practically the whole year. I was right around the same age as Elliot and could imagine smuggling an alien away in my bedroom closet or showing him off on Halloween. Several years after that, Ghostbusters was all the rage. I loved imagining zapping ghosts, especially ugly green ones, with my proton pack. Movies were an essential part of my childhood. Not so much for my own children. While my oldest was able to experience the Frozen phenomenon when she was in kindergarten, there have been very few that have reached that level of popularity. Sure, my youngest couldn't get enough of Despicable Me, but the movies, especially in the last few years, have been mostly duds. It turns out that spending hours in a darkened room is not so appealing when you simply need to turn on your smartphone for endless hours of entertainment. But there are also always exceptions. So when the last episode of Stranger Things was given a theatrical release, all my kids jumped at the chance to go. They all loved the show, each watching all 5 seasons when they reached a point that it was deemed appropriate for them, which my wife and I determined to be 6th grade. For us as parents, we had the opportunity to watch each child fall in love with Mike and Elle, Will and Max, Robin and Dustin. Early on, especially, they would cower at the Demogorgon and the creepy world of the Upside Down, even imagining they would be sucked over into it when the streetlights would flicker while they were walking with friends. This was as close to the Star Wars experience as we could conceive of in the 2020s. I originally bought 4 tickets to the showing, but I ended up with a conflict. So the kids went by themselves, my oldest driving. They sat near the front because it was sold out, and those were the only tickets left. The episode itself got mixed reviews from my kids, 2 liking it, 1 feeling let down, but I was overjoyed. They finally understood the power of a medium that has been an essential part of all our lives for over a century. My love of movies includes the silent era in the 1920s, when Charlie Chaplin and Buster Keaton would delight audiences with their antics, the talkies in the 30s and 40s, drive-ins in the 50s and 60s, art house movies of the 70s, and the blockbusters of my childhood where pyrotechnics filled the screen. So what if the age of streaming has inundated our lives? I would trade it all for a quiet day with my dad watching Back to the Future or Die Hard. While my experience is different than that of my kids, at least just once, they were able to understand mine.
Movies. Well, from another voice about power, from Thomas L. Knapp, the director and senior news analyst at the William Lloyd Garrison Center for Libertarian Advocacy. Panicky political proposals to address the looming specter of grid failure under the strain of powering massive computer facilities, which in turn power massive artificial intelligence operations, range from charging data centers higher rates per kilowatt hour to just banning the installations. The only instance of helpful innovation I'm seeing from the political establishment comes from Senator Tom Cotton, a Republican from Arkansas, who wants to exempt so-called in-house utilities from federal regulatory red tape through legislation called the Data Act. Simply put, if Meta or Microsoft want to build their own generators, run their own power lines, etc., they'd save a lot of time and money by not burdening the grids used by other energy production entities. It's an idea that would benefit everyone, not just data center operators. The idea of running power lines all over God's green acre made a certain amount of sense in the 1930s. It makes no sense at all now. Running those lines and maintaining that infrastructure is expensive. That infrastructure is vulnerable to everything from wind to lightning to drunken drivers to intentional sabotage, and their increasing interconnectedness just increases that vulnerability. Everyone is always one blown transformer or down line or computer malfunction away from living in the 19th century for a little while. There is another way. Along with the increase in grid-related problems, there has been a corresponding increase in alternative power generation solutions that don't require large, expensive, centralized generation and sprawling grids to carry the energy. Rooftop solar and backyard wind have advanced to the point where many, maybe even most homes could function without grid connections at all. The increasing safety and decreasing size of nuclear reactors make it possible to generate and distribute power at neighborhood rather than regional scale. The utilities that operate those power plants and those grids are holding us back from what could be an era of cheap, clean, reliable energy. It's time to give up our grid addiction. If we wise up and do that, possibly starting with passage of the Data Act, energy production and distribution can finally advance into the 21st century. A great idea by Thomas L. Knapp.
It is a great idea.
I love it.
Doesn't bother to point out that the 21st century is already a quarter gone. Oh, well. Turning now to the health, finance, and business section, Buffalo Next, we have an article here, which my fingers are still chilled from the trip here.
Yes.
Won't work very well. Amazon's AI push hikes layoff and climate concerns. As Amazon culls its workforce, the company is pouring billions of dollars into its artificial intelligence infrastructure, leaving some employees wondering whether the trade-off is worth it. The company will report financial results for 2025 next week, and as previously projected, it would spend about $125 billion in capital expenditures for the year. That investment is drawing backlash from employees, including those involved in the worker advocacy group Amazon Employees for Climate Justice. On Wednesday, Amazon announced it would lay off 16,000 employees as it continues to streamline its corporate ranks. The worker-led climate advocacy group soon issued a statement stating, "Employees say Earth's best employer is becoming a career dead end as the company lays off thousands and invests in data centers." Quoting anonymous workers, the group said there's growing concern among employees that the company's AI push will conflict with Amazon's climate goals. In an open letter signed by more than 1,000 Amazon workers and over 4,000 people from tech companies like Microsoft, Meta, and Google, workers are calling for more guardrails around AI and input from employees over how the technology is handled internally. As Amazon integrates AI into its products for everyday consumers and commercial clients who use its cloud computing platform, the company is also encouraging AI use internally. AI has been criticized for its high energy usage, a problem exacerbated with each user. Employees at Amazon say the AI tools they're given have been useful for repetitive tasks, but as the technology is driving real-world productivity, employees say the actual use of it could be more efficient. As adoption of the tech continues, Amazon and other companies are ramping up data center expansion. In a sustainability report from last year, Amazon acknowledged that the AI push is creating a challenge from rising energy demand. The company maintains that the technology is so transformative that it can tackle those challenges. Amazon points to the ways it's embedded AI into its retail business to improve the efficiency of its logistics network while maintaining fast delivery. Amazon says it's also developing breakthrough data center innovations in cooling technology to improve energy efficiency. But Amazon's emissions goal took a step backward in 2024. The company, which aims to reach net zero carbon emissions by 2040, reported an increase in emissions from 2023 to 24. In 2024, Amazon's total emissions were more than 17 million metric tons higher than in 2019. The AI race is widening this gap, the open letter from Amazon Employees for Climate Justice said. As use of AI increases inside the company, employees say the work they're doing is essentially training those AI models and tools for more widespread use. Tech's broader pitch to use AI to tackle challenges like climate change is appealing to some. But the pressure to use it for mundane tasks throughout the day is wearing down the morale for those concerned about energy usage.
Jobless applications ticked down slightly. From Matt Ott of the Associated Press. U.S. applications for unemployment benefits inched down modestly last month, remaining at historically healthy levels despite recent high-profile layoff announcements. Applications for jobless aid for the week ending January 24th fell by 1,000 to 209,000 from the previous week's number, which was revised upward by 10,000, the Labor Department reported Thursday. Analysts surveyed by the data firm FactSet were expecting 205,000 new applications. Applications for unemployment benefits are seen as representative of the U.S. layoffs and are close to real-time indicator of the health of the job market. An assortment of high-profile companies have announced job cuts in the past year, including UPS, Amazon, and Dow this week alone. That, combined with the government's own sluggish labor market data, has left Americans increasingly pessimistic about the economy. Earlier this month, the government reported that hiring remained tepid in December, capping a year of weak employment gains that have frustrated job seekers even though layoffs and unemployment remain low. Employers added just 50,000 jobs last month, nearly unchanged from a downwardly revised figure of 56,000 in November, but the Labor Department said that the employment rate slipped to 4.4%, this first decline since June from 4.5% in November, a figure also revised lower. The economy gained just 584,000 jobs in 2025, an average around 50,000 per month. That's sharply lower than that more than 2 million added in 2024, which amounts to average of nearly 170,000 per month. The 2025 numbers represent the smallest annual job gain since the COVID-19 pandemic decimated the job market in 2020. Outside of recessions, it's the slimmest annual increase since 2003. The January jobs report is due out next Friday, with analysts forecasting another ho-hum 50,000 job gains. The Labor Department also recently reported that businesses post far fewer jobs in November than the previous month, a sign that employers aren't yet wrapping up hiring even as growth has picked up. Businesses and government agencies posted 7.1 million open jobs at the end of November, down from 7.4 million in October. Layoffs also dropped as companies seem to be retaining workers, even as they're reluctant to add staff, a trend economists refer to as low hire, low fire. Recent government data has revealed a labor market in which hiring has clearly slowed, hobbled by uncertainty raised by President Trump's tariffs and lingering effects of the high interest rates the Fed engineered in 2022 and 2023 to rein in a spike of pandemic-induced inflation. The Federal Reserve, in an attempt to shore up a softening labor market, trimmed its benchmark lending rate by a quarter of a point 3 straight times at the end of last year. However, on Wednesday, the U.S. Central Bank chose to leave its benchmark lending rate alone in the midst of an improving economic outlook at what officials called a stabilizing labor market.
As part of our newspaper listing, we now present the day's death listings. If you need further information on any of these names, call us at 716-821-5555. Again, that's 716-821-5555. Horvath Karen A. Nee Bat died in Tonawanda at age, 73. Gerald Kasparek, Gerald Robert of West Seneca, age 76. Kowalski Jr., Stanley A. of Kenmore, died in on January 23rd, a week ago, at the age of 88. Penna Concetta M, or Concetta. I don't know how she pronounced that name. I've seen both. I've heard both. But her maiden name was Terranova, and she died at 93. Murray Lorraine Nee Herdegg, age 92, passed away in apparently Gowanda. Stravalaci Katerina Nee Musso of Williamsville, and Taki Gregory J. Of Kenmore. He was 75. And we have a couple of obituaries, some national importance. The Associated Press, Rebecca Stone, reports that Shirley Raines, a social media creator and nonprofit founder who dedicated her life to caring for people experiencing homelessness, has died. Her organization, Beauty to the Streets, said on Wednesday she was 58. Raines was known as Ms. Shirley to her more than 5 million TikTok followers and to the people who regularly lined up for the food, beauty treatments, and hygiene supplies she brought to Los Angeles, Skid Row, and other homeless communities in California and Nevada. Raines' life made an immeasurable impact, Beauty to the Streets wrote on social media. Through her tireless advocacy, deep compassion, and unwavering commitment, she used her powerful media platform to amplify the voices of those in need and to bring dignity, resources, and hope to some of the most underserved populations, the organization said. Raines was born on December 29, 1967, in Compton, California, and she had 6 children. One son died as a toddler, an experience that left her a very broken woman. I know that feeling.
Sad.
Raines said in 2021 when she named CNN's Hero of the Year. Melissa Asadera, founder of Polo's Pantry, recalled joining Raines every Saturday to distribute food when Beauty to the Streets was first getting started. Raines remembered people's birthdays and took special care to reach out to transgender and queer people who are often on the outskirts of Skid Row, she added. It's hard not to think of Shirley when I'm there, Asadera said. In 2025, Raines was named the NAACP Image Award winner for Outstanding Social Media Personality. Other social media creators lauded her work and shared their own grief online on Wednesday. Ms. Shirley was truly the best of us, love incarnate, wrote Alexis Nicole Nelson, a foraging educator and social media creator known as Black Forager. Meanwhile, Kimberly Cruzy, another Associated Press writer, tells us that Virginia Oliver, one of the oldest lobster fishers in the world who trapped crustaceans in Maine for nearly a century, has died. She was 105.
105.
Nearly a century. Okay, well, born on June 6, 1920, in Rockland, Maine, Oliver started trapping lobsters at age 8. So that tells you how she could last nearly a century trapping lobsters. Alongside her brother, her father, and her older brother, at a time when few women worked on the water in the male-dominated industry, she fell in love with the business and went on to become known as the Lobster Lady as she faithfully tended traps for decades. I like doing it. I like being along the water, she told the Associated Press in 2021, and so I'm going to keep on doing it just as long as I can. Oliver died
She sure did.
Yeah, she did. Oliver died last week, according to a family obituary published on Monday. Her life has been celebrated in books, articles, and across media platforms worldwide, the obituary states. As she worked on the water over the years, Oliver watched the lobster industry drastically evolve from a working-class food to a pricey delicacy. Lobsters fetched 28 cents a pound on the docks when she first started trapping them. Today it's $6.14 a pound. Yet many aspects of the job remained the same. She had to get up in the early morning hours, long before dawn, to use small fish they called pogies to lure lobsters. She worked from a boat once owned by her late husband, and it was called the Virginia. Charming, her late husband named the boat after her. Virginia was more than a local icon. She was a living piece of Maine's maritime industry, the Maine Lobster Festival said in a statement honoring Oliver, where she once served as Grand Marshal of the festival's parade. Maine Governor Janet Mills, who once presented Oliver with a special state recognition for her birthday, posted on social media that the lobster lady's life inspired the next century of hardworking Maine fishermen. Virginia Oliver, gone at 105 years of age.
Well, on to some entertainment with the Royal Stars from George and Nichols. Happy birthday for Friday, January 30th of 2026. You are confident in the truth of your convictions. You're instinctual, rational, empathetic, and persuasive. This year, change will bring you increased personal freedom. Stay flexible. The stars show the kind of day you'll have, and today everybody's 3 and 4 stars, which 3 stars is average and 4 is positive. Aries is 3 stars. This is a lovely day for a family gathering at home. Invite friends and relatives over for good food and drink. Tonight, cocoon at home. Taurus is 4 stars. You're in perfect position today to rally your troops and get people to support a cause that's important to you. Your words will be optimistic, even inspirational. Tonight, an important conversation. Gemini, 4 stars. Financial discussions will go your way today. Look for ways to boost your income or find a better paying job. This is possible. Trust your money-making ideas. Tonight, check your possessions. Cancer, 4 stars. This is an excellent day for discussions about inheritances, taxes, debt, and shared property. Tonight, you're in charge. Leo's, 3 stars. Because you have a warm feeling in your tummy today, conversations with others will be gentler. Be forgiving with partners because it's easy to feel annoyed. Tonight, quiet time. Virgo, 4 stars. All kinds of gatherings, meetings, conferences, and conventions are blessed today. Tonight, schmooze with friends. Libra, 3 stars. You make a great impression on others today. They see you as someone who is generous, kind, and nurturing. Tonight, you're high viz. Scorpio, 4 stars. Travel plans or any opportunity to expand your horizons will appeal to you today. If you can go back to school or sign up for a course, do it. Tonight, learn and explore. Sagittarius, 4 stars. You're in an excellent position today to negotiate, buy, sell, or name the terms that you want in situations involving shared property. Tonight, check financial paperwork. Capricorn, 4 stars. Today, the moon is opposite your sign, which means you have to accommodate others and be ready to go more than halfway. Tonight, cooperate and listen. Aquarius, 4 stars. Job opportunities or a chance to improve your current job exist today. Likewise, many of you might receive advice or an opportunity to improve your health in some way. Tonight, be helpful. And Pisces is 4 stars. Accept all opportunities to socialize with others because this is the kind of day where you will get what you give. Kindness will flow easily, and tonight, enjoy good times. And today in history, on this date in 1649, England's King Charles I was executed for high treason. And in 1835, the first known attempt to assassinate a U.S. president, an unemployed house painter tried to kill President Andrew Jackson, but both of his pistols misfired and he was tackled. But in 1933, Adolf Hitler was named Chancellor of Germany. In 1945, during World War II, a Soviet submarine torpedoed the German ship MV Wilhelm Gustloff in the Baltic Sea, killing over 9,000 people. Most of them war refugees. Roughly 1,000 people survived. In 1948, Indian political and spiritual leader Mohandas K. Gandhi, 78, was shot and killed in New Delhi by Nathuram Godse, a Hindu extremist. In 1968, the Tet Offensive began during the Vietnam War as communist forces launched surprise attacks against South Vietnamese towns and cities. In 1969, the Beatles staged an unannounced concert atop the Apple headquarters in London, in which would be their last public performance. In 1972, 13 Catholic civil rights marchers were shot and killed by British soldiers in Northern Ireland on what became known as Bloody Sunday. And in 2017, President Donald Trump fired acting U.S. Attorney General Sally Yates after she publicly questioned the constitutionality of his refugee and immigration ban and refused to defend it in court.
I have to remind myself from time to time, we're here to read the newspaper, not comment on it. But
no editorializing.
I try my best.
Yes.
Jonathan Epstein reports under the development category, the IDA grant, there are some IDA grants that are going to help fund small rail line expansions. State officials apparently believe that Erie County is on the right track with its use of short line railroads to enhance economic development, awarding 2 grants to the county's Industrial Development Agency and 1 to a railroad that the county owns to pay for extensions and upgrades to 3 lines. The awards from the New York State Passenger and Freight Rail Assistance Program total $8.3 million and will fund small rail expansions to help 2 companies in Lackawanna. The largest, totaling $4.3 million, will allow the ECIDA to construct new rail siding into the welded tube facility at the former Bethlehem Steel campus, directly behind Renaissance Commerce Park. That will enable the company to use rail shipments to bring in steel and even ship out the products they make. The ECIDA will use a second, smaller grant of $1.7 million to rehab 5 miles of track on the Buffalo Southern Railroad, running between Buffalo and Gowanda, including culverts and bridges. That railroad will also receive $300,000 in county capital funding for repairs and infrastructure. The third grant, which went directly to the South Buffalo Railroad, will provide $2.3 million to install rail sidings into the new Decorators Incorporated facility at 300 Commerce Drive in Lackawanna. As with welded tube, that will allow the company to bring raw materials in and ship products out by rail. The Michigan-based Composite Decking and Railing Company is opening a $77.2 million manufacturing and distribution facility in the former Can Fiber complex in the Steelawana Industrial Park off Ridge Road. It bought the 31-acre site from Krog Group of Orchard Park for $6.75 million and has converted the 253,310 square foot complex to produce a new decking material made from crushed limestone. The company was approved last year for $1.82 million in sales and property tax breaks from the ECIDA, as well as $724,000 in state Excelsior Jobs tax credits from Empire State Development Company. And we have a few moments before our mid-hour break. The Trump administration's high-profile deployment of federal troops to 6 U.S. cities has cost taxpayers roughly $496 million through the end of December, and continued deployment could cost over $1 billion for the rest of the year, according to new data from the nonpartisan Congressional Budget Office. President Trump has justified sending National Guard troops into U.S. cities as part of an effort to combat crime and support local law enforcement. Critics of the move argue the deployments undermine state and local authority and exceed the president's authority under the Constitution. The CBO published the new data estimating the costs associated with the federal deployments of National Guard and active duty Marines after a request from Senator Jeff Merkley, a Democrat from Oregon, who is the ranking member on the Senate Budget Committee. White House spokeswoman Abigail Jackson did not address the CBO's cost estimate, but said in a statement that the White House's deployment efforts have driven down crime. The media should talk to individuals who are able to go about their daily lives without fear of being assaulted, carjacked, or robbed thanks to the Trump administration, Jackson said. You're listening to a reading of articles from the Buffalo News for today, Friday, January 30th. On your Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. We'll return for more readings after this short break. Your readers today are
Jay Patek
and Don Williams.
If you're listening to this publication online, you're probably using our website, a podcast player like Spotify or iTunes, a streaming service like Siro, or a smart speaker. Did you know that we now have a dedicated app that can be downloaded to any mobile device, like a smartphone or tablet, for free? App users can conveniently access our live stream and any episode of our podcast easier than ever. To download the app, just type NFRRS in the search window in the Apple App Store or in the Google Play Store. Contact us anytime if you have any questions by calling 716-821-5555, extension 5. Thank you.
multi-vehicle crash. Okay.
Yep.
Here, we'll continue now with our reading of articles from today's Buffalo News. Your readers are
Don Williams.
and J.J. Patek, and we'll move on to City and Region. Multi-vehicle crash closes a thruway in both directions, as from Ben Sugimoto and John Harris. The thruway was closed in both directions between Pembroke and Batavia following a crash on Interstate 90 in Batavia involving 25 to 30 vehicles and tractor trailers, according to state police. The state police sent out an alert around 1:20 p.m. Thursday regarding a multi-vehicle crash involving passenger vehicles and tractor trailers on the thruway between exits 48 Batavia and 48A at Pembroke. Roughly an hour later, state police estimated the number of vehicles involved and added that only non-life-threatening injuries had been reported to that point. At about 3 p.m., all I-90 traffic eastbound lanes opened to traffic, but police warned westbound lanes would be blocked for some time. Officials have not identified where the crashes occurred, nor their causes. Vehicles headed westbound continued to exit at Batavia. The next opportunity to get on the thruway westbound after the diversion is Pembroke, exit 48A. About 11 miles separate the two exits. A spokesman for Mercy Flight said the organization sent its ground ambulances to the site of the crash. There is no report of serious injuries. Police urged drivers to avoid the area. This crash occurred about 12 miles east of a motor coach crash in August that killed 5 people. On August 22nd, the eastbound bus traveling from New York to New York City following a trip to Niagara Falls veered onto the right shoulder and then left, rolling into the thruway onto its side near the Pembroke exit in Genesee County. Been a lot of massive crashes on a thruway lately.
I'm not quite sure what that one in August has to do with this.
No, that's very different. This was
They
probably
needed to fill a column, it looks like.
Well, they have that. The crash that was down south of Hamburg.
Yep,
The one north of Toronto. The one in Michigan.
it's everywhere.
Those involved over 100 vehicles each.
Meanwhile, snow removal hinders start of semester at Buffalo State. SUNY Buffalo State University's spring semester is off to a slow start. Make that a snow start. That's what it says here. The university's first day of classes was supposed to be Monday, but as with many schools and colleges across the region, Buffalo State canceled classes that day due to the snowstorm that struck the area Sunday. Buffalo State held classes on Tuesday, but then canceled them for Wednesday and Thursday, and I think they're closed again today.
Yeah.
In a statement yesterday, Buffalo State said snow removal and cleanup efforts continue in the campus parking lots and sidewalks following additional snowfall and continued wind and drifting snow. The situation on campus was first reported by WKBW-TV. Nicholas Smith, a Buffalo State student and president of the United Students Government at the school, said he and other students are frustrated with the ongoing conditions. I understand the financial situation of the school, but I hope that conditions continue to improve because many students still find campus quality to be inadequate, Smith said. Smith said he arrived Tuesday on campus to completely unplowed roads, parking lots, and sidewalks. He said he spent an hour talking to students to get their opinions and forwarded those complaints to school officials. Smith said that on Wednesday morning, it appeared many of the main roads had been plowed, but many parking lots remained untouched, and a good handful of walking paths hadn't been plowed in a while. I talked to many students in person, via email and Instagram, and they told me stories of friends who had slipped and been hurt, he said. Other students trudged through snow to get to class. Other students said that on Tuesday they had left halfway through the class day as conditions were unbearable. Canisius University resumed regular classes on Tuesday after switching to hybrid classes Monday. The University of Buffalo has also had a regular schedule this week after canceling Monday. Kevin Williams, a Buffalo State professor and chair of the Buffalo State Senate, said he felt canceling the classes Wednesday and Thursday was the right call. Williams said Tuesday's windy weather created difficult conditions for getting around campus. He said canceling classes Wednesday allowed snow removal to move ahead with fewer cars in the parking lots, but with more wind and snow Wednesday, that required additional cleanup time yesterday. It's frustrating, obviously, for the students, for faculty and staff, and I'm sure for the administrators too, Williams said. But he added it was a matter of safety to keep walkways and parking lots clear, and he noted Buffalo State has similar a smaller facility staff than some other schools. I think a lot of people don't realize how many miles of roads and walkways are on campus, he said. Buffalo State has asked faculty members to stay in touch with students. Depending on the class, some classes could be held remotely. In a message to the campus community Tuesday, Benita Durand, Buffalo State's interim president, said the university's facilities team had prioritized cleaning areas impacting those on campus with physical accessibility concerns, as well as areas that typically receive the heaviest traffic. I am aware of the challenges some of you may have encountered getting around campus, Durand wrote. The extreme cold, constant wind, and new snowfall have complicated snow removal efforts. Our facilities team has been working around the clock to clear as much snow as possible from walkways and parking lots. In a follow-up message yesterday afternoon, Durand said about 75% of campus parking lots and walkways had been cleared.
It's a challenge right now with so much snow. Where do you put it?
Yeah.
And because of the salt on the sidewalks and streets, they can't dump it in a lake.
Exactly.
Well, serial killer Fox admits guilt in fourth woman's death. This is from Aaron Bessiger. Convicted murderer and serial killer Richard J. Fox II on Thursday pleaded guilty in Niagara County Court to killing a woman whose remains were found last year in a Niagara Falls home, the district attorney's office said. It's the fourth woman Fox has admitted to killing and third he's pleaded guilty to in court. Fox, 63, pleaded guilty to second-degree murder in the January 2023 death of Crystal Curthoys, whose remains were found hidden under a stairwell in an Orleans Avenue home where Fox once lived, the district attorney's office said in a news release. Sentencing was scheduled for April 15th. Fox faces a sentence of up to 25 years to life in prison, a term prosecutors said could be added to his current sentence. Curthoys, 32, formerly of Lockport, also was living at the home for a while before she was killed, prosecutors revealed Thursday. Although this defendant is already serving a life sentence, it was important for us to hold him accountable for this murder, District Attorney Brian Seaman said in a statement. Crystal was not just a number to be added to his defendant's tally sheet. She was a person with a family and a life. What she would have made of her life before her now will never be known. We hope that holding this defendant accountable for her killing brings some small amount of consolation to Crystal's family. Earlier this month, police in Brant revealed that Fox admitted to killing his grandmother in 1976 when he was 13. Fox won't be charged in his grandmother's killing because at the time of her death in 1976, the age of criminal responsibility in New York was 16. Fox, who was charged last month with Curthoys' death, is currently serving 40 years to life sentence after pleading guilty to killing two Buffalo women whose remains were found in Chautauqua County in 2021. Investigators believe Fox killed Cassandra Watson, who would have been around 40 at the time, in 2003 or 2004. Marquita Mull, 50, went missing in June of 2021. Fox is also a convicted sex offender who previously went to prison twice. He was convicted in 1993 of raping a 14-year-old girl and was incarcerated until April of 1997. In 2005, he pleaded guilty to aggravated sexual abuse and attempted rape and was sentenced to 15 years. He got out in January of 2018.
Just a bundle of charm.
Charming person there.
Well, something a little bit more enlightening. Jonathan Epstein again. This time he's reporting on higher education and finances. Duville requests $20 million more in bonds for medical school. 5 months after an affiliate of the Erie County Industrial Development Agency authorized an $85 million bond sale to support the creation of a new osteopathic medical school in Buffalo, Duville University came back asking for $20 million more. Duville is planning to open the area's second medical school, which received its pre-accreditation in September, in an existing 5-story office building at 285 Delaware Avenue, which Uniland Development Company owns. The university's first class of 90 students is already 2/3 full and will begin studies starting in the fall on Duville's West Side campus, while Uniland renovates the 125,000 square foot downtown building for educational use. Plans call for the renovated College of Osteopathic Medicine building to include advanced anatomy and simulation simulation labs, technology-enabled classrooms, and collaborative learning areas designed to simulate real healthcare settings. Dewville, which currently has 2,700 undergraduate and graduate students, expects to expand the medical school's enrollment to 720, yielding a total of 3,400 by 2032. The Buffalo and Erie County Industrial Land Development Corporation in September approved the bond transaction to fund the $30 million renovation and operating costs. This deal included $65 million in tax-exempt bond financing and $20 million in taxable bonds. A mortgage recording tax exemption was also included. But before the bond deal closed, Dewville decided to raise the stakes and applied for another $20 million in taxable bonds to restructure its debt. The revised bond sale, which was approved by the ILDC on Wednesday, is now $105 million. The tax-exempt portion remains unchanged, as does the tax break. Dewville is also planning to create 50 full-time administrative and faculty positions, in addition to its existing workforce of 337 full-time and 25 part-time employees. The ILDC previously approved and closed a $44.9 million taxable bond in 2024 to cover the initial startup costs of the new program. New York seems like Dewville's getting pretty ambitious with their planning.
Well, I hope it works.
Yep.
Well, now we're going to have a break here. You're listening to a reading of today's Buffalo News on your Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service, and it is now 11 minutes past the hour, and we're going to move on to sports. Hopefully some good things here.
Yeah, hopefully.
This one here, Josh Allen and his broken foot. There's a guy who can handle pain. Even in boot, Allen is ready to get off on the right foot. From Catherine Fitzgerald. Josh Allen had plenty of matters to address on Thursday as he took the podium at one Bills drive, but the first questions were about how the Bills quarterback got there on crutches with his right foot in a boot. Speaking for the first time since the Bills season ended in January 17th with their overtime loss in the AFC divisional playoffs at Denver, Allen started off with his foot. If we had a game this week, I would be playing this week. Absolutely, Allen said Thursday. Are you kidding me? Wow. But Allen had played the end of the season with a broken fifth metatarsal in his right foot. Allen said it was an older injury, which he re-aggravated during the Bills' December 21st game against the Cleveland Browns. Bills president of football operations and general manager Brandon Beane said that Allen had a procedure done for his foot on Monday in Birmingham, Alabama. Yeah, I had a little broken bone in there, so we went in and took it out and cleaned it up, Allen said. Obviously, not an ideal situation. Painful throughout the weeks, but again, game day, it's a different story. Just being able to put that to the side and go out there and play football. Allen said he'd be ready to go for organized team activities in April, saying the injury shouldn't hinder anything. And when those practices start, Allen will be playing under Joe Brady, who was promoted to head coach this week. Being formally introduced Brady on Thursday, Allen addressed the media about 20 minutes later. Allen, who sat in on the 9 interviews the Bills conducted, said Brady's authenticity stood out. I think the realness that he has, Allen said of Brady, have been able to live in the quarterback room for the last 3.5, 4 seasons. He's a real human that guys can get behind and understand and play for. I thought in his interview the vision he had for the team. I'm sitting in these interviews and I'm not the only one making the decision, right? I'm there to inquire, to learn, and bring a different perspective to the decision makers that were in that room, and I'm taking the personal relationship out of it and taking the emotion out of it and trying to look at it from a logical lens. It was a unique perspective. It was a cool learning experience for me, and I'm very fortunate to be regarded to being wanted in that room, and I don't take that lightly. Allen said Beane and the team owner, Terry Pegula, came to him and asking the quarterback to be part of the process. But before that process began, Allen said it was very, very emotional learning that Sean McDermott had been fired after 9 years in charge. The final 8 with Allen. The quarterback found out via a phone call from Pegula, and Allen said he called McDermott immediately. I've got nothing but love and respect for Coach McDermott, Allen said. The last 8 seasons, 8 years of my life, he's been through ups and downs of me as a player and as a person. He's seen me growing up in a sense, and to know that, again, we've had a lot of success here, and I'd be lying to you if I'm sitting here saying that I don't feel like I didn't have a part in McDermott's exit, because if I had made one more play that game in Denver, we're probably not having this press conference right now. We're probably not making a change, and in all honesty, we're probably getting ready to play another game, and that's the hard part to take from my perspective, but that's reality. Allen said he's still processing how the season ended in the divisional round. The reigning most valuable player, who wasn't always as sharp this season, but was still the most talented player on nearly every field he stepped into, was responsible for 4 of the Bills' 5 turnovers with 2 interceptions and 2 fumbles, despite rushing for 66 yards and throwing for 283 more, including 3 touchdowns. Allen also underthrew or overthrew a handful of open receivers. Those missed opportunities could have put the Bills over the top, even with a -4 turnover margin. I'd be lying to you if I did say I'm still sick to my stomach about how the season ended, he said. Again, we're living in reality. It is what it is now, and we have to come to grips with that. And I feel like as days go by, I become more in touch with reality, just trying to do whatever it takes. 1, move forward, but 2, to understand how to get past what we're trying to get past. Obviously, we want to win a Super Bowl here. And for what it's worth, Allen says he thinks the Bills are on the right path to that ultimate goal. I was able to sit in these meetings with a unique perspective, but when I saw was an owner in Mr. Pegula and a family who was doing everything they can to help this team win a Lombardi trophy and bring a trophy here to Western New York, Allen said. I see a general manager that is motivated as ever to do the same thing, and now I see a head coach that will relay this message to the team and to myself, and to get everybody together, pulling in one singular direction, and I think that's what's needed, and I think that, again, whatever Joe needs from me, I'm going to do. And I think it's the right decision for this organization. Well, good luck.
Indeed. Turning to another sport,
Yes.
one that's had remarkable success lately, Jordan Greenway has learned to listen to his body as he continues his recovery from off-season sports hernia surgery. Greenway has had no choice but to listen to it. It's been screaming at me for some time as of late, the Buffalo Sabres left wing said yesterday morning. Greenway and the Sabres have heeded those biological shouts. Greenway didn't play in a 5-0 win January 24th at the New York Islanders and in a 7-4 win Tuesday at Toronto. And while the 6'6" forward participated in the morning skate yesterday, but wouldn't be in the lineup for the Sabres game last night against the Los Angeles Kings, which, by the way, they won. I think it was 7-4. Maybe that's a different game. Anyway, they won. We made the decision to look for more information, more knowledge, more opinions, Greenway said. I feel as I have, and everyone else has been very receptive in allowing me to maybe not go out for practice or a pregame skate or take a game off, whatever the case is. Greenway told the Buffalo News in December that he underwent a first hernia surgery in December 2024 and a second surgery this summer, which he said was much more intrusive. It's been tough to get it back to where it needs to be. Sabres coach Lindy Ruff said Greenway will meet with a doctor on Monday for further evaluation, but he can still skate, Ruff said. We're going to see if we can try to get him in a better place and going to try to get a more definitive answer. Greenway missed the first 10 games of the season after recovering from surgery. As part of his return to the ice, the Sabres designed a load management plan to help Greenway work back into the lineup without risking injury or creating a setback in his recovery. The plan was going well until recently. Greenway has been held out of the lineup in practices over the last week before yesterday. Pain management and minimalization, Greenway said, have been the focus and helping him in the process of being able to play in a game and be comfortable. Greenway primarily has played on the Sabres' third and fourth lines this season and has 1 goal, 4 assists, 23 penalty minutes, 15 blocked shots, 49 hits, and is -9 in 33 games. He even took on Washington right wing Tom Wilson, one of the NHL's noted intimidators, in a fight November 1st in a 4-3 shootout win against the Capitals. The current load management plan has Greenway not playing in games on back-to-back days and sitting out certain practices or morning skates, but the results haven't fully been there, Greenway said. It's tough for sure. I've been kind of dealing with this for a while now, but at the same time, I'm a big believer in control what you can control, and I feel as if the medical team, the coaches, management, everyone has been trying to help every way they can with the things that we can control. I can't do anything to speed the recovery up. I can't do anything to make this feel better. The bottom line, going out there, playing in pain is never fun. The NHL's 18-day break for the Winter Olympics should give Greenway some much-needed time to rest and recover. The Sabres play their final game before the Olympics break, February 5th. Let's see, that's next week, Thursday, against Pittsburgh at KeyBank Center. And after that, Sabres players who aren't going to the Olympics will scatter, likely to warmer locales across the world. Shouldn't be harder to find one of those. Greenway also looks longer term at how time off from playing will help him down the line. I've still got a life to live afterwards, Greenway said. You definitely have to think about it for sure. But at the end of the day, my goal is to be able to go out there and help the team as much as I can and do it with the least amount of pain as possible. Ruff gave another update on goalie Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen, who sustained a lower body injury Tuesday at Toronto. He's going to miss a little bit of time, Ruff said. I'd say right now we're looking at a week, and we'll see where he is after this. Luukkonen is 11-7-2 with a 2.73 goals against average and a saves percentage of .903 in 21 games. Luukkonen is on Finland's roster for the Winter Olympics in Milan Cortina d'Ampezzo, Italy. The men's hockey tournament begins February 11th, but Ruff said there's not been any organizational discussion regarding Luukkonen's status for the Olympics. They don't want to rule it out or rule it in, or we're going to have to make it. We're going to have to make it, Rule said. We're going to have to rule it, Ruff said. We'll just see where we get by early next week. About 6 minutes into Ruff's morning media availability, an electronic chime began to echo through the media room at KeyBank Center. Can't talk right now, Ruff quipped as he silenced his electronic smartwatch. Ruff apologized for the interruption, then announced the caller with a wry smile. I'm cutting Jarmo off, Ruff told reporters, referring to Sabres general manager Jarmo Kekalainen. Cut him off during the meetings, huh?
All right. Well, Rybakina holds on to knock off Pegula and reach the Open final. We're into another sport yet. From Melbourne, Australia, and John Pye from the Associated Press writes this. Not even a pointy penalty for hindrance slowed Ariana Sabalenka's run to fourth consecutive Australian Open final. The top-ranked Sabalenka overpowered Elena Svitolina 6-2 and 6-3 Thursday night to move within one victory of a third Australian Open title in 4 years. A rematch of the 2023 final against Elena Rybakina was set up when the number 5 seed ousted number 6 Jessica Pegula 6-3, 7-6, who's seventh in the second semifinal. Her semifinal was mostly one way until Rybakina had match point. The 2022 Wimbledon champion missed 3 match points on Pegula's serve and then was broken twice while serving the match. Pegula rallied and had 2 set points in the tiebreaker, but wasn't able to convert. And Rybakina finally clinched it at 29 minutes after her first match point. Really, really stressful, Rybakina said. She admitted to flashbacks from the 2024 Open when she lost the longest women's tiebreaker ever at a Grand Slam to Anna Blinkova at 22-20 in a 3-set defeat. I'm proud no matter what the situation. It got very tight. I stayed there, she said of the win over Pegula. I was fighting for each point. For Pegula, it became a matter of swing or miss out. Sometimes when you're on the brink of losing everything, you get a little clarity because you're just kind of like, screw it, I'm going to try and stay in this, she said. I played a couple of really good points to save the match points, and, she missed a couple of short balls, a couple of free points to take some pressure off. All 4 players reached the semifinals without dropping a set. In Australia, for the first time in 56 years, and Sabalenka and Svitolina were each on 10-match winning streaks to win the season after titles and warm-up events. Sabalenka kept both of her streaks alive. As has become customary for Ukrainians against players from Russia and Belarus, there was no handshakes at the net. There was also no group photo before the match. Sabalenka is the third woman in the Open era to reach 4 consecutive singles finals at the Australian Opener after Yvonne Goolagong-Cawley and Martina Hingis. It's an incredible achievement, but the job's not done yet, an emotional Sabalenka said in her on-court TV interview. I've been watching her game, that's Svitolina, was playing incredible. I felt I had to step in and put as much pressure as I could back on her. I'm glad the level was there. I think I played great tennis.
That score that mentioned that JJ mentioned, Jessica Pegula's loss, 7-6, and then in parentheses it has a 7. What that means is the set was tied at 6 games, and at that point they have a tiebreak.
Yeah.
And the tiebreak has to be won by, it has a margin of 2 points to win the tie in the tiebreak, and the 7 in parentheses indicates that that's the number of points that it took to finish off that set in the tiebreak. So that would have been 7-5 in the tiebreaker. But
yeah,
you're supposed to know all that stuff if you need to.
If you need to.
Well,
Don.
New sport yet.
Another one.
Clevis Murray in Prep Talk reports Max Mancabelli doesn't know what a stationary heart is because he's either running a fast break for Orchard Park boys basketball team, they're now 12-1, or suspended 14 feet above a fiberglass rod in a pole vaulting competition. His motor is constant. Mancabelli, a junior, is the starting point guard for the Quakers, averaging 12.9 points per game for the Section 6 Class AA favorites, ranked number 7 in the News' large school poll. What strikes me about Max is if you didn't watch what he does on the court or on the pole vault runway, if you watch the way he warms up, he does things the right way, said his father, Chuck Mancabelli Jr. He'll spend time on the free throw line. He spends time 5 feet away from the basket, making sure his technique is right. I think everything else, all the athletic accolades, are gravy compared to the way they treat other people and the way that they're valuing their education. It's not just about Mancabelli balancing 2 sports, but about a family legacy functioning as a compass. The Mancabelli household has always exhibited athletic excellence in track and field, but their origin story doesn't begin on a podium. It starts on a track in Memphis, Tennessee in 1963. It was the day John Pennell officially became the first man to pole vault over the 16-foot barrier, and standing there witnessing history was Mancabelli's grandfather, Chuck Mancabelli Sr. He was the person responsible for certifying what at the time seemed impossible. He was a student of physical education and a football player at Memphis State, now University of Memphis. It's just kind of been like a pathway, Chuck Jr. said. Between my mom's family and my dad's influence, I can't say enough about what the sport of pole vault and track and field has meant, because Max, as good as he is at a pole vault, he's a better decathlete. Almost was meant to be that way. What Chuck passed down to his son, Chuck Jr., and eventually to Max wasn't just a memory of the height, but a memory of Pennell. Chuck Sr. relayed how nice Pennell was to everyone working at the event. Chuck Jr. believes that afternoon in Memphis was the spark that led his family into pole vaulting. He's like an Energizer bunny, says Orchard Park boys basketball coach Chris Frankowski of Max Mancabelli. You never see any drop-off. You can go 1,000,000 miles an hour every single day, and you never see any lack of focus. For Frankowski, coaching Mancabelli is akin to managing an engine that can't overheat. He recalls last Friday's game against Lancaster, when Mancabelli performed with non-stop energy. For us, that's the wowing factor, Frankowski said. The kids' work ethic just never stops. You never see any drop-off at practice. You never see any drop-off in games. We really don't have too much conflict, which is nice. It's really, really impressive. Raised by a father who coached state championship basketball teams in Arizona and a mother with a jumping background at Arkansas State, Mancabelli grew up in a home where athletic success was the baseline. He watched his brothers, Tino, Keegan, and Anthony, ascend as Division I pole vaulters at Albany, Cornell, and Binghamton, respectively. Mancabelli has learned something from each of his brothers and recalls seeing Keegan clear the bar by 4 feet and knowing he wanted the same feeling. Having 3 role models is just the greatest thing I could ever ask for, Machiavelli said. I remember I went to Keegan's meet, and he's warming up, and the first jump he takes is like maybe 13 feet 6 inches, and he just wins the competition by 4 feet, and it's crazy. Like, that's his first jump, and I want to be like that one day. Last year, he cleared 14 feet 0 inches to finish 16th in the state, but it was his silver medal at the Junior Olympic Decathlon that exposed the scope of his ceiling. He competed in 10 events in 2 days, with a standard for the decathlon. He has also competed in the discus, throwing 126 feet 9 inches last year, and his preparation is what his father appreciates. Chuck Jr. estimates his son spends about 30 minutes warming up before it's his turn on the pole vault, and it has a similar seriousness to being ready on the court. I think he does a better job than anybody I've ever seen. Kind of like he's one of those kids. It's really like the Energizer Bunny, Chuck Jr. said. He's really only happy when he's doing something. If he's not doing something, it's not good for him. He just sits there and stirs, so he likes to be active. Being good at 2 sports, Machiavelli's balancing of both hasn't been an issue. He's found a way to make the best of both situations. He just looks at it as, I want to be as good as I possibly can at both, Frankowski said. You understand what kind of athlete he is to play point guard and play basketball, but then on Saturday, he's 14 feet in the air using a pole. It's a different skill set, a different mindset. He puts all the effort into it for both of them.
Well, you're listening to a reading of today's Buffalo News on your Niagara Frontier Radio reading service. It's 31 minutes past the hour. And now we're moving on to Asking Eric with our Eric Thomas. An interesting letter. A volatile daughter-in-law overhears family talking. This should be a good one. Dear Eric, my husband and I are in our 70s and have never really been able to get close with our daughter-in-law. She and our son have been married for 13 years. She's 9 years younger than him, and this is his second marriage. They have one child who's 11. She is always angry. She has a very explosive temper and yells, slams doors, and has what I call tantrums. Her son is often on the receiving end of her anger. When he's alone staying with us, he is calm, happy, helpful, and all-around good kid. She shows up, and within 5 minutes, he's so different, nervous, and exhibiting off-the-wall kind of behavior. They were here to pick up my grandson a few weeks ago, and she had one of her tantrums. She stormed out of my house, slamming the door so hard the weather station fell off the wall and broke apart. We started talking about her and her behavior and how it upsets us, and she had quietly snuck in the back in the house and listened to our entire conversation. I took the opportunity to ask her why she is always so angry, and she seethed at me. Your son, all he wants to do is work and play his music. I admitted we were talking about her and our opinion of her. My husband even said that maybe our son works all those hours to get away from her. We are not blameless, but we did what we think we were having a personal conversation in our own home. Needless to say, our son hasn't contacted us at all, nor has he let our grandson contact us. I don't know what to do. She will not speak to us. She has no relationship with her parents and no friends. Do you see any way to have a relationship with my son and grandson going forward? And it's signed, Avoiding Anger. Well, that sounds pretty toxic. Wow. Any answers? Dear Avoiding, it's possible that your daughter-in-law is emotionally abusing your son and grandson. So the first step is to reach out to your son and express your regret about how things escalated and your concern for his safety. Tell him even though he doesn't feel comfortable reconnecting with you right now, he should reach out to someone for support, a therapist, a faith leader, or the National Domestic Violence Hotline. That's nationalhotline.org/800-799-SAFE. It's dangerous for his family to be isolated from others moving forward. Even if his wife's behavior doesn't rise to the level of emotional abuse, it's clearly disruptive, and that relationship needs help. Really, you can't force him to get help. But if you prioritize his safety and well-being right now, it'll put you both in a better position to reconnect once he and or his family get help. Yes. And next, Dear Eric, high call volume, wrote you concerning his friend with whom he reconnected only to receive multiple calls a day. The letter writer wrote, it drives me nuts for him to call so much. I've tried not answering and suggesting texting is better for me to no end. He calls 2-3 times a day. I grew up in my very early years in a household that had a party line phone. Whenever we finally got our own individual line, we felt like kings. Every time the phone rang, it was for us, and we eagerly picked up the phone. Now I own a smartphone that most often shows who's calling. If I'm not able to answer, will be inconvenient to answer, or just don't want to talk with someone on that time, I let a call go to voicemail. The point is, just because someone is calling doesn't mean I have to answer at that time. High call volume could let his reconnected friend phone calls go to voicemail, or talk to him the next time he calls. It is signed picking up at my own discretion. That answers dear discretion. Though the letter writer has tried not answering, you make a good point about mindset. Smartphones have all manner of call filtering features, from sending calls straight to voicemail to temporarily blocking them altogether. The letter writer can start to think of the calls from his friend as requests rather than demands. This may reframe his friend's enervating habit. Some people can call, but we don't have to pick up. In the larger scheme of things, this is an example of good internal boundary. The letter writer can't control what the friend is doing. Though the friend has been asked to modify his behavior, he hasn't yet. But the letter writer can still put boundaries in place around his own behavior that preserve the relationship. I'm sure many of us have metamorphical ringing tones in our lives that are grating our nerves. It's good to remember that we can send them to voicemail. I could talk for 5 minutes about how I got my phone set up.
Well, I have mine set so it doesn't even ring through from numbers that are not on my contact list.
Oh, I have that and others. Ringtones assigned to specific people and groups so I can listen. And some just plain don't ring.
Yep. Well, turning back to the front page, Brady vows to bring new energy to Bills, this reporter from reporter Lance Lasowski. After expressing gratitude and love for the man he replaced as head coach of the Buffalo Bills, Joe Brady exhaled. The 36-year-old, now in charge of Buffalo's beloved NFL franchise, had already shed a few tears during his first press conference on the job. To fight back the raw emotion, Brady spoke slowly Wednesday at One Bills Drive. The strategy failed as soon as he made eye contact with his wife, Lauren, who's been his co-pilot on a football journey that brought them to Buffalo nearly 4 years earlier. A different kind of emotion began to pour out once Brady's pause ended. At the same time, we've got to move forward, right? Said the NFL's youngest head coach, exuding the personality that endeared him to Bills players since he was hired as their quarterback's coach in 2022. And I think it starts with a new energy, a new mentality, and a new vision. A new energy that I've got to drive every single day. The 54-minute press conference held in the state-of-the-art weight room at One Bills Drive marked a new era for a franchise that needed a new voice. Behind the makeshift stage through the glass and across Abbott Road, you could see the $2.2 billion stadium where Brady will lead his team during home games in the fall. The vision Brady communicated to President and General Manager Brandon Beane and owner Terry Pegula were gradually pieced together with each comment and question. A few important questions remained unanswered, though. We'll never know the exact blueprint Brady laid out to Beane, Pegula, and the rest of the search committee to explain why he's the coach to push the Bills over the proverbial playoff wall they could not climb during Sean McDermott's 9 seasons. Brady preferred to keep the details of those conversations private and insisted that his focus was on mapping out the future, not reflecting on the past. It's more of, this is what I would do as a head coach, and this is the vision that I'm looking to do here, said Brady. I think a lot of times we think that, hey, when you take over a place, you just have to change a lot. Sometimes it's just fine-tuning some things. Brady gave no specifics about the defense the Bills plan to run or how Brady will be better at managing his staff and players. In-game decisions were also a blind spot for McDermott at times, none more glaring and indicting than 13 seconds. How will a first-time head coach do better, especially when he's balancing play calling with the job of a CEO? To Brady's credit, he acknowledged he doesn't know everything. His ascent from a linebackers coach at William & Mary to NFL head coach in 12 years included time at Penn State with James Franklin and New Orleans with Sean Payton. Brady took extensive notes to learn from both. He has the humility to ask others for advice and foresight to prioritize experience on his coaching staff. Some of his hires, for example, will come from teams that have a head coach who's also a play caller. The rest of Brady's plan will slowly come to light in the coming weeks and months, beginning with the addition of a defensive coordinator who must fix a unit that's been Buffalo's Achilles heel in the playoffs. No one should have expected Brady to throw his former boss under the bus. Brady had the chance yesterday to reveal that McDermott would not allow him to run the offense he wanted, but Brady didn't take the bait. He did say, however, that his defense will look different. No longer are you able to just know where guys are going to be when they're going to be there, Brady said, and I think that's a key element of what I'm looking for in a defense, making sure that we have to have the versatility to be able to change personnel, get a lot of different people in different spots. It's similar to what we do offensively. I don't believe offensive football and defensive football should have different mindsets. If you listen closely, you could hear the ways Brady distinguished himself from McDermott. The Bills did not choose Brady for continuity. In fact, he had to overcome his status as an in-house candidate. But none of the other 8 candidates knew the Bills or the current dynamic of their locker room better than Brady. Oops. One of his competitors in the search, former offensive coordinator Brian Daboll, called more plays for Bills superstar quarterback Josh Allen, but Daboll has not been in the building every day since 2022. Much has changed since he left to become coach of the New York Giants. Relationship dynamics shifted, urgency heightened. The team suffered more heartbreaking losses in the playoffs. McDermott's defense floundered in the playoffs. Allen will be 30 at the start of next season. Different types of personalities and leaders are now on the roster. Players respected and admired McDermott, but they also grew tired of how uptight he could be when pressure mounted. With Brady, there should be a balance that did not exist previously. Brady has shown through words and actions that he'll always support his players. If the offense didn't score enough points this season, Brady blamed himself. Asked Wednesday about the offense's shortcomings in the playoffs, Brady owned the Bills' 5 turnovers in their loss to Denver in the divisional round. He's not your typical stubborn football guy who's set in his ways. Brady can connect with players in a way his former boss could not. There's a shift that has to take place when an assistant coach gets promoted, but the Bills believe Brady can handle the transition. The fact that he has his own personality, he's not so much business attire, offensive lineman Alec Anderson said. He was saying up there he doesn't always want to be in a suit and tie. He wants to dress like the guys and be more, not one of us, but he wants to know that we don't have to have our expletives so tight around him all the time. We can walk around and be our own personalities. Yesterday, as Brady approached the podium to deliver an opening statement, he looked down at his players seated in the front row and said, "What's up, my guys?" McDermott was praised for revitalizing a culture that became toxic under previous coaches. But Brady wanted everyone in the crowd to know that his players set the tone. Without Allen and his teammates, none of their success would be possible. By addressing them directly, Brady let the Bills know that this is about players, not coaches. He considers McDermott a friend and mentor, but during his 2+ seasons as offensive coordinator, Brady showed through his words and actions that his personality and approach are different. Under Brady, the roster will never be used as an excuse for Buffalo's shortcomings. Allen, right tackle Spencer Brown, and tight end Dalton Kincaid were sitting in the front row to Brady's left. Behind them sat cornerback Maxwell Hairston, whose rookie season got cut short by knee and ankle injuries. Admittedly, Brady's closest relationships are with the players on offense, but he wanted everyone else to know he will connect with them the same way. He loves football. He loves this game. He loves the players, and that's very evident in our meetings, Allen said. And I think when he's in front of our defense and our special teams players, as well as our offense, people are going to understand that the love is real and that we want to win and we want to bring a trophy here to Western New York is real. No coach since Lindy Ruff and Marv Levy had been a steward for Buffalo like McDermott, who embraced Western New York from the moment he arrived. Brady and the Bills wanted everyone to know that he, too, fell in love with his special corner of the world. He and Lauren spent the summer of 2022 here because they wanted to ingratiate themselves. Both of their children were born here. Brady went on to quote Levy and express admiration for their fan base. Brady won the press conference, but he wasn't the first Bills coach to hit all the right notes. Does anyone care about Rex Ryan's musings when he got introduced in 2015? Remember those barstool chats Ralph Kruger had before he talked Pagula into letting him coach the Sabres? It's all fluff unless Brady delivers. And Brady being found a part-time partner. The general manager used the word alignment 12 times as he noted and expounded on the importance of the two working in lockstep. Brady earned the benefit of the doubt. You don't help your quarterback win MVP and build an offense that produced the NFL's rushing champion without understanding how to adapt and evolve. His success as a head coach will hinge on his ability to build the right staff and make smart in-game decisions. Brady's first remarks as coach should have inspired confidence. It will not be more the same at one Bills drive. Now we'll have to watch over the next 12 months to learn whether he's equipped to handle arguably one of the most pressure-packed jobs in the NFL. I understand that I'm walking into this role in a much better position than Coach McDermott did, Brady acknowledged. I'm not naive to that. I didn't take this job to shy away from expectations. I sure as hell did not do that. I'm embracing it. I'm understanding it. And I'm meeting it full on. I wish him luck.
Well, we'll see what happens.
Yep.
And on to the front page again, and Trump's ambitions for Board of Peace give the UN a boost. This is from Edith Lederer and Farnoosh Slamiri from the Associated Press. President Trump's latest attempt to sidestep the United Nations through his new Board of Peace appears to inadvertently backfired after major world powers rejected U.S. aspirations for it to have a larger international mandate beyond the Gaza ceasefire and recommitted their support for an over 80-year-old global institution. The board, chaired by Trump, was originally envisioned as a small group of world leaders overseeing his plan for Gaza's future, but the Republican president's ambitions have expanded to envisioning the board as a mediator of worldwide conflicts, a not very subtle attempt to eclipse the Security Council, which is charged with ensuring international peace and security. The board's charter also caused some dismay by stating Trump will lead it until he resigns with veto power over its actions and membership. His Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, tried to ease concerns by saying the board's focus right now is only on the next phases of the Gaza ceasefire plan. This is not a replacement for the UN, but the UN has served very little purpose in the case of Gaza other than the food assistance, Rubio said at a congressional hearing on Wednesday. But Trump's promotion of a broadened mandate and his floating an idea that the Board of Peace might replace the UN has put off major players. In Security Council statements, public speeches, and behind closed doors, U.S. allies and adversaries have dismissed Trump's latest plan to overturn the post-World War II international order with what he describes as a bold new approach to resolving global conflict. The U.S. rollout of the much broader Board of Peace Charter turned the whole exercise into a liability, according to the International Crisis Group's Richard Gowan, a UN watcher and program director. Countries that wanted to sign on to help Gaza saw the board turning into a Trump fan club. That was not appealing. If Trump had kept the focus of the board solely on Gaza, more states, including some more Europeans, would have signed up, he said. The other four veto-wielding members of the Security Council, China, France, Russia, and the United Kingdom, have refused or have not indicated whether they would join Trump's board as have economic powers such as Japan and Germany. Letters sent this month inviting various world leaders to be founding members of the Board of Peace coincided with Trump's vow to take over Greenland, a semi-autonomous territory of NATO ally Denmark, and punish some European countries that resisted. That was met with a stark rebuttal from Canada, Denmark, and others who said Trump's demand threatened to upend an alliance that has been among West's most unshakable. Shortly after, Trump pulled a dramatic reversal on Greenland, saying he'd agree with the NATO Secretary General on a framework of a future deal on Arctic security. Amid the diplomatic chaos, British Prime Minister Keir Starmer, who at the time had not responded to Trump's Board of Peace invitation, met with UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres in London and reiterated the UK's enduring support for the UN and the international rules-based system, according to a statement. Starmer emphasized the UN's pivotal role in tackling global problems which shape lives in the UK and all over the world. The United Kingdom later declined to join the board. France, Spain, and Slovenia declined Trump's offer by mentioning its overlapping and potentially conflicting agenda within the UN. French President Emmanuel Macron last week said that the board goes beyond the framework of Gaza and raises serious questions, in particular with respect to the principles and structure of the United Nations, which cannot be called into question. Spain would not join because the board excluded the Palestinian Authority and because the body was outside the framework of the United Nations, Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez said. America's adversaries have also shown the board no single country should dictate terms based on its power, and if a winner-takes-all approach is unacceptable, China's UN Ambassador Fu Kang said at a Security Council meeting Monday. He called for the United Nations to be strengthened, not weakened. And he said that the Security Council's status and role are irreplaceable. In a clear reference to the Board of Peace, Fu said, "We shall not cherry-pick our commitments to the organization, nor shall we bypass the UN, and create alternative mechanisms." So far, about 26 of some 60 invited nations have joined the board, with about 9 European countries have declined. India did not attend Trump's signing ceremony at the World Economic Forum meeting with Davos, Switzerland last week, but is reportedly still deciding on what to do. Trump revoked Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney's invitation. It's hardly surprising that very few governments want to join Trump's wannabe UN, which is so far looks more like a play-to-pay club of human rights abusers and war crime suspects than a serious international organization, said Louis Charbonneau, the UN Director for Human Rights Watch. Instead of handing Trump's $1 billion checks to join his Board of Peace, governments should work on strengthening the UN. 8 Muslim nations that agreed to join the board issued a joint statement that supported its mission in Gaza and advancement of Palestinian statehood. Turkey, Saudi Arabia, Egypt, Jordan, Indonesia, Pakistan, Qatar, and the United Nations Emirates made no mention of Trump's global peacemaking plan. The crisis groups Goan said their focus could be on a way to get a foothold in discussions of Gaza at the start, as Trump's ceasefire plan has already faced several setbacks. "I remain unconvinced that this is a real long-term threat to the UN," Goen said. "I suspect that the headaches of stabilizing Gaza will dominate his agenda, and the board's proposed charter does not provide a legal basis for big military interventions elsewhere." Well,
well, turning back to the weather.
what else is there to talk about?
Well, we have our own problems here.
Yes.
But in the South, crews race to restore power as the South braces for the next hit. Jackson, Mississippi. Mississippi dispatched 500 National Guard troops to clear roads blocked by fallen trees. And Tennessee had nearly 1,000 linemen scrambling to restore power to thousands of Nashville homes as the southern states raced to recover from a crippling winter storm before another blast of dangerous cold hits today. The National Weather Service said Arctic air moving into the southeast will cause already frigid temperatures to plunge into the teens tonight in Nashville, where more than 90,000 homes and businesses still had no electricity 5 days after a massive storm dumped snow and ice across the eastern U.S. At least 80 people have died in areas afflicted with bitter cold from Texas to New Jersey. The extended deep freeze has left some people increasingly desperate in a region unaccustomed to and ill-equipped for such cold. Emergency dispatchers in Mississippi were getting calls from people running out of food and medications while stuck at home. Tennessee had troopers making welfare checks on residents who hadn't been heard from in days. The situation in hard-hit northern Mississippi was life or death, said Jamie Partridge, a longtime resident of Batesville, where residents shivered in line outside a Walmart store hoping for a turn to buy supplies. More than 300,000 U.S. homes and businesses still had no electricity on Wednesday, according to the outage tracking website Power Outage US. The vast majority were in Mississippi and Tennessee, with roughly 100,000 each. Nashville Electric Service said in a social media post yesterday that it had 963 linemen working on repairs after the storm snapped hundreds of power poles in the Nashville area. New Utility Vice President Brent Baker said crews would need the weekend or longer before all customers could be restored. Interstates 55 and 22 were closed in northern Mississippi after emergency crews with tow trucks and snowplows removed gridlocked vehicles stuck on the icy roads. Governor Tate Reeves said road crews would continue to work on Thursday toward reopening the major highways. Said he had mobilized 500 National Guard troops to clear trees and other debris still blocking roads. Forecasters say the subfreezing weather will persist in the eastern U.S. and into February. And there's a high chance of heavy snow in the Carolinas, Virginia, and northern Georgia this weekend. Snowfall is also possible along the east coast from Maryland to Maine. So we're not out of it yet.
I have family down there, and they hate this.
Well,
Looks like we're coming to the end here.
you've been listening to a reading of articles and features from the Buffalo News for today. It's still Friday, January 30th, 2026. And I'm going to share with you a comic strip or two. Family circus is charming as always.
Yes.
The mom is standing there in the doorway while the dad walks into the house with his 4 toddlers tagging along, all present and accounted for, 4 children and 8 mittens. I like Kai and Lois. Chip has been in the shower for almost half an hour, Mom says. And the little guy says, I'll get him out. And he goes to the bathroom door and says, I just broke one of your guitar strings. Chip inside the shower goes, what? Yeah, he'll get out of there now to investigate that, right?
That'll do it.
Well, we do read the Buffalo News live on weekday and Sunday mornings at 9 and rebroadcast at 4. For more information, call 716-821-5555. Your readers today have been
J.J. Patek.
and Don Williams. We'll be back next month. Thanks for listening.
If you or people you know shop at any of the Dash's supermarkets, please save Dash's register tapes for radio reading. Our agency receives $2 for every $100 in Dash's register tapes. Radio reading has raised thousands of dollars so far. Anyone can drop off their Dash's tapes to the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service at 1199 Harlem Road, Cheektowaga, between William and Clinton Streets. Or Dash's tapes can be mailed to the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service at 1199 Harlem Road, Cheektowaga, New York, 14227. Any questions on Dash's tapes for radio reading? Call us at 716-821-5555, and thanks for caring. The following program is intended for listeners who are blind, have low vision,